The City of Soundsville is the name of this podcast, and as always, I am your host, Shadow Streak, and joined by me is...
RJ App. I just love talking about the Powerpuff Girls with everybody.
And you sound super enthusiastic while doing it.
This is one of the greatest animated TV shows according to Variety and the LA Times.
It's not the greatest. It's one of the greatest. I would agree with that, but it's my
No,
favorite.
it kind of is the greatest.
It's not the greatest. Arcane exists, so
The hell is that?
You've never seen Arcane?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the show. Well, I've never seen it.
It's the League of Legends show.
I've never seen it, so it doesn't exist. So I guess that makes Powerpuff Girls number one. I guess that's how that works.
It's literally the best animated thing I've ever seen in my life.
I'm sure, but this isn't really an advertisement for that. Go watch it.
It's not an advertisement for it, but I am wearing an Arcane T-shirt right now. It's got Vi on it. It's
that's very
Fighter
nice.
Pit
But,
Goth Vi.
I'm wearing a shirt.
I really
and
like
pants,
Arcane. I really like Arcane. It's really good.
Oh, that's interesting. What is that, Netflix?
Yeah. It's on Netflix, yeah.
Oh.
I don't have any Powerpuff news, which is why I felt like shilling Arcane instead. Go watch it. But also watch the Powerpuff Girls and listen to this podcast, please, because we want you to, please. I'm asking nicely. So that means now you have to do it out of obligation. So, thank you.
Yeah, well, whatever. Honestly, we've got a pretty good episode today.
We do. Do you have any news or anything exciting to talk about before we jump into it?
Oh, heck no, actually. Not much has happened.
I have one thing. I do actually have one thing to say. Yeah. Multiversus. I hate it. I hate that game. Not because of the gameplay, but because of the stupid... It does the exact same stupid garbage that, like Marvel Rivals has it. Not nearly as bad, in all fairness. At least I don't have to pay to play whatever Marvel Rivals characters I want, but good frickin' lord. It is so stupid that I have to frickin' pay to play as the fighters. Like, could you imagine if you bought in all fairness, the counter argument is, well, it's free to play. I'd rather you just be like, here, buy the game for $40 and you get all the characters. I don't want to have to pay for each individual fighter. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's absurd. Could you imagine if you had to do that for Super Smash Bros.? Everybody would be livid over that shit.
You are an angry youth.
I am an angry youth. I'm actually not that angry. I'm emphasizing that it is actually kind of ridiculous.
I mean, I told you your anger is crazy on this podcast. You don't know it, but
oh man, if only you knew what my anger actually was.
Oh, that's right.
It's just minor inconvenience and annoyance, but it's enough for it to be a legitimate criticism of like why can I not just play as the Powerpuff Girls? Why do I have to go through all these extra hoops and I tried 2 weekends ago. I tried to play with a friend of mine that really likes a substitute dessert for cake. He and I tried playing it together, and I was like, man, I really want to try out the Powerpuff Girls, because everybody in my chat's like, hey, Shadow, have you played Multiversus? Have you tried the Powerpuff Girls? And I was like, no, I need to. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I get Multiversus installed on my PS5. I boot up the game, and I'm like, okay, so where's the Powerpuff? Oh, I have to buy them. Oh,
this made you so mad that you're from New Jersey now.
It didn't make me mad. It made me disappointed. I was like, wow, I love not being able to enjoy a game because I have to pay for an individual fighter. Like, I just want to buy the fucking game. Like, is that too much to ask for?
So that's what it is. We're not angry Multiverses. We're just disappointed.
I am disappointed because it's like, man, I downloaded this game. I was like, man, it's going to be so cool. Or give you the option to be like, okay, you can pick your first fighter that you want, and then you have to unlock all the rest or whatever. And it's like, okay, fine. But it's like, in order for me to unlock Powerpuff Girls, I got to grind the game for 20 freaking hours or something. That's hyperbole, but I'm not going to sit here and play as characters I don't want to play as in order to play as the one that I want to. That's just ridiculous, and it's anti-fun. Why would I not have fun in order to have fun? I'd rather just have fun. Video games are meant to be recreational. They're meant to be an escape. They're meant to be entertainment and fun and enjoyable. Why would I play something that isn't enjoyable? 0 out of 10, Multiversus sucks. Multiversus sucks. I'm just going to say it. The gameplay doesn't suck, but the structure does. And that makes the game unplayable in my book. I'm going to stick to real video games where I can actually, get the full experience. when I pay for it and not have to pay for individual fighters, or alternatively grind and not have fun for 30 hours in order to have the characters that I want to play as. Both options, the former is infinitely better than having to deal with that. So that's my piece on Multiversus. They ruined the game and it really sucks. So I'm probably never going to play it. And if I ever do a YouTube video where I feature Multiversus in it, I'm going to say this game is stupid. Their character is in this game, but I'm not playing it because I'm not going to support this garbage. I'm going to play actual games that are not anti-consumer. Thank you. Bye-bye. And I hate to sound this way too and be a little pessimistic, and I won't stick on this rant for too much longer, but it is relevant because one of the alternate skins for the Powerpuff Girls is, lo and behold, the Rowdyruff Boys, which just so happens to be the episode we're talking about today. So this isn't entirely irrelevant because I was really looking forward to being able to play as the Rowdyruff Boys in the game too, because Rob Paulson actually recorded.
Yeah. And so did Roger L. Jackson
lines, and Roger Jackson, yes, they both did record lines for their characters in the game. Now, admittedly, Boomer sounds
it's been
off.
A while, yeah.
It's really weird. He does not sound anything like the show, but whatever. But Butch,
but I mean, like, to be fair for
fine.
him, that's a character
they sound
he
fine.
did a few times.
Yes,
that's like a few sessions in
like,
2003.
I know, but also like you'd think maybe go back and look at the source material, or
and
something.
Maybe he can also, right?
And maybe he couldn't. Maybe it wasn't available to him. Maybe the director directed him a different way. Maybe he physically can't do it. Who knows? Age is definitely a factor when it comes to voice acting.
And he had throat cancer
more than some people realize. So, so it's like, it is what it is. But either way, I never got to experience that because of the game's horrible business practices. So, anyway, I am never playing Multiversus again. I will acknowledge it in videos and say, this is a pay-to-win game. I don't support this garbage. I'm not playing it. If other people want to play it, that's totally fine. If other people want to put money into it, totally fine. That's their prerogative. But I am not going to support that sort of business practice in the video game industry. I'm going to continue to buy my games once and then have them, because that's what I prefer and that's my personal taste. And if people don't agree with that and they want to get scammed, that's totally fine. That's their prerogative.
Okay. You know what? I like picnics and long walks on the beach.
Wow, look at this guy over here.
Look at me.
Look at RJ. But yeah, no, I just don't agree with it. It's scummy, and I don't like coming across as a pessimist, but a lot of people seem, at least in my other videos, people seem to get offended when I say that I don't agree with mobile game business practices, and by extension, this sort of seasonality thing that other games like Fortnite and hopefully not to a bad extent, but Marvel Rivals to an extent, or Fall Guys, or, all these other games that have the generic stock milquetoast menu as like the game hub. That if the game has a hub screen and it's a menu with generic sections, I'm not playing it. I don't support that. That's just me. I wish I could have positive things to say about the Powerpuff Girls and Multiversus right now. I would love to share those thoughts. Unfortunately, I have been hampered by my inability to actually enjoy the game to be able to share those thoughts with everyone. So hopefully that answers the question to those of you that were asking me what my thoughts are. There's my thoughts. I don't know what more to say. So I'm probably going to have to answer that question like 50 more times on various streams over the next several months, but whatever. That's my take.
What do you think about the series in general?
Yeah. What, Multiversus?
Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, the Powerpuff Girls is phenomenal. The Powerpuff Girls is amazing, and I love it, and it's still my favorite show ever.
List the names and age of every characters in a row, and
Blossom.
Tell me what you think
5,
about them.
Bubbles 5, Buttercup 5, Professor Utonium.
Yeah, but no, review each character.
Mojo Jojo unknown, him unknown, Miss Keen unknown, Princess
unknown.
5.
A lot of them are unknown, actually.
I'm pretty sure, RJ, the only character ages we have confirmed are the.
I know Princess was bad timing. Princess was bad timing, but yeah.
Mojo's like, I mean, maybe you can make the argument that some of the kindergartners are 6.
Mojo's 23.
How do you?
I'm just kidding. That is a straight lie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you know? Well, it's like that's a nice argument. RJ.
The funny thing is, I could just say that he's like, I could say that he's 23, and like nobody
made it the fuck up.
I think if I said he was 23 online, I think everybody would just buy it. Because like his Inferno Majesty, like that's the one thing that got me. Like I was like, oh wait, that's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
It was never his Inferno Majesty. It works. That's why I guess that's the only thing that could trick me.
Work.
You can't trick me any other time.
It does work. Yes, indeed it does.
Okay, we can talk about the Rowdyruff Boys.
I was doing a Victor voice from Arcane because Arcane is great.
I don't know what that is.
It's a good show. Okay, so anyway, yes, as I alluded to a couple minutes ago, that made for a good segue until I tangented off of it again. The Rowdyruff Boys is the episode we're talking about today. This is probably one of, if not the most highly anticipated episodes of this podcast we're ever going to have. So, let's talk about it. This episode is notoriously known for a certain aspect of the fandom of Powerpuff Girls.
To be honest, I think we should do that at the end.
A little bit. But we will save that for the end because we're going to talk about the episode first.
Also, there's a scene at the end where it comes from, sort of. So
yeah. So we'll talk about the episode first, and then we'll get into that whole conversation, I'm sure. So the premise for this episode is that Mojo Jojo continues to get beaten by the girls over and over and over again. And he gets to the point where he's like, how can I beat them? Oh, I know. I gotta fight fire with fire. And so he decides to make some superpowered little boys to fight the superpowered little girls. And he makes them in prison. And then the Rowdyruff Boys are born. And they're like, yo, we want to fight and beat people up. And then Mojo's like, well, how about you go beat up the girls? And they're like, okay. And then they fight for a really long time. And then the girls lose. And then they realize, oh, we have to be nice. And then they be nice. And then the boys lose. And then that's the episode, the end.
Nice. That's exactly how it goes, too. That's the dialogue verbatim.
That's exactly how it goes. Yes, it is.
The
girls lose, nice. And then they be nice, and then they win. The end.
Once again, the day is saved.
So yeah. So all right. Well, I usually say, RJ, what are your thoughts? But I'll take the lead here.
Very nice.
As an episode by itself, I like the episode. The action's some of the best action in the whole series.
Yes. Yeah.
Action's phenomenal. The action aspect of this episode, fantastic. The boys are very one-dimensional, one-note, uninteresting characters, in my opinion, outside of the fact that they're basically just, an opposite foil of the girls for them to fight against, and kind of just a take on, like, this is what the Powerpuff Girls would be like if they were evil.
I mean,
and it's like, okay.
My thing is that necessarily a bad thing for this? Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
No. It's not a bad thing. It's good for this episode. It's a one-episode concept. But I'm going to stress that. It is a one-episode concept. But it works within the context of this story that was written. And, I really do enjoy the episode. Also, fun fact, this was completely unrelated to the other stuff that we had set up there. This was my first episode of the series.
Oh, that's right.
This was my very first episode. I recall seeing it somewhere in I can't remember the exact date because I was 3 years old. Somewhere in the summer of 1999. Somewhere in the summer. It was summertime and it was 1999. It could have been June, July, August, maybe even September. I don't know when it was. I was 3. I can't remember. But somewhere in the summer of 1999, I saw this episode at my grandparents' house on their mini, 8-inch or 10-inch CRTV or whatever, a really small white one, and I watched the episode, and I was like, man, I really liked all the fighting. That was fun. And I was 3, so, I couldn't really,
sophisticated
I was still
review.
Too young to grasp, I was too young to grasp a lot of what was going on. I just liked the images that moved around the screen, and, the fighting was cool. And I was like, man, I really like this show. I want to watch more. And then I watched it. At some point later down the road, I got on Cartoon Network again, and I saw Insect Inside was my second episode, and from there, that's all she wrote. I was hooked.
I mean, that is kind of the good thing about this series. I think even a very young mind probably likes something about this show.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's visually appealing and all the fighting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I definitely saw this episode, and I think in order. But of course, this is the unique one because this is the first half-hour one. I'm not sure if they intended it to go half hour. I know the next one is Dynamo, that was just the storyboard artist went overboard and they had to extend it. But I think they only did 1.5 hour with Dexter, which was the finale. So I remember there was an article with this old animation magazine called Animato, I believe, and Craig and Gendy were talking. He's like, "Oh, they're actually letting us do like half-hour episodes on it." So they were really happy to get the permission to do that. So the good thing about these half-hour episodes are that I think they get to have a bit more story than usual. Like that's the thing with the 11-minute episodes. Like they're all entertaining, but I'm not on the edge of my seat. I kind of know what's going to happen, but I just want to see it happen. But some of these, you could actually get interesting stories, and you sort of wonder what's going to happen next, which you don't really get in the 11 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
And the thing is, for sure. But that's the caveat, because some of the half hours are better than others. Season 4 is all half hours, and some of them are great, and some of them could be a lot shorter, I think. So it's sort of a double-edged sword. But these half-hour season 1 episodes are very good, I think.
Yeah, I think both of these 2 episodes that we're talking about in this episode and next episode are phenomenal. I really enjoy both of them.
Yeah, and this episode doesn't skimp out on action at all, because it's action from the beginning. It's action and jokes from beginning to end, which is why this is a lot of people's favorite.
Yeah, for sure. But before we get into like the main course with all the action, I think we should start with the setup.
Sure.
Kind of talk about, everything that leads up to it. So I really do enjoy. So one small detail about the opening that I really like is we get 3 instances of Mojo attempting to terrorize Townsville. And each time the girls, defeat him. And I like the repetitive structure of it and the way they kind of emphasize it with each successive defeat, especially in the music, which is a small detail I really like. But every successive defeat that Mojo gets, the music gets, I don't know if louder is necessarily the right word, because like the volume doesn't increase, but like the intensity of it does.
Yeah.
And it kind of builds on Mojo's frustration, and you can see him visually with each time he gets his fingerprint and like the pictures with the ID code or whatever, I forget what the name of the plate is that's around his neck. Like each successive one, the intensity builds more and more, and I like that detail. But I also, completely just random thing that I've always loved, I love how red those explosions are. When he's shooting the buildings and they blow up, it's so, like, it's red. It's such an intense, like, appealing shade of red. I don't know.
Yeah, pops.
Usually explosions, they're like a light yellow with some orange and maybe some gray and a lot of smoke and stuff. But no, those explosions are like a deep red, and it's like, wow, that looks really cool. I like.
There's also some really nice impact frames that are always fun. Yep. Especially, well, they kind of contrast with the cell animation.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if these were created digitally. I think they might have shined the light through the cell also with these. I'm not sure.
I think you're right on the latter. I think that's what they did. And I also really like the poses of the girls like kicking Mojo.
Yeah, I think these were all probably models created for this. Like they're all special poses, and they're really nice. It's probably honestly it does sort of look like Andy Bielk drew those. That's just a guess on my part. I know he did models for this episode. I think it was him and Chris Battle for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure Chris Battle designed some of those robots.
Yeah, the robot designs was another thing I wanted to compliment, because we get, so the first one's like Mojo with like his giant ray gun or whatever. That's cool. But then we get like the giant UFO thing with like
that's very cool,
which is a really cool one. And then we kind of get like his giant mech suit walker type thing. So, it's really cool to see Mojo.
I mean, I didn't even think of it. That's the top of his house.
Really?
Like that's his lair that she's traveling with.
Yep. And it's just really cool to see kind of like the more of Mojo's scientific gadgetry aspect of his character really start to get utilized a little bit.
And they're designs too, because they're simple. They match the show style, but they're also pretty intricate.
Yep.
I mean, I believe this is actually, we didn't see it because it was sort of in Buttercup style, but I think that's the same robot from the Bearfax. It's the same fighting Robo Mojo.
It could be. I'd have to go back and look
with the nipple designs,
certain, which I think you're right.
I don't understand this show's fascination with nipples. But actually, you know what? I think the 90s was a time for cartoon nipple humor.
I guess.
Nipples of the 90s, guys. That's the quote of this podcast. Nipples were the 90s. How about
we don't make that no, we are not going to make that a hashtag. Please don't do that.
Nipples for the 90s. 90s kids, remember
No,
nipples?
I don't know.
I miss those.
I do not, RJ, I do not want to be partially responsible for that hashtag ever becoming a thing. Please don't do this.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I don't know how to describe that music, like whenever Mojo's getting like sent away. Is that what you were talking about earlier with the intensity?
Yeah, the intensity.
Oh, that. Yeah, I love that. Like it's drums, but like I don't know. It's sort of like a
like I wouldn't describe it as like it's not. It's like loud.
I guess it's like a skittering beat or something.
And then
they reuse that a lot, but like and that's also again that's the fun thing about season 1. You're seeing a lot of these music cues for the first time, but I love that.
Yes. And then when, especially like on the third one where Mojo like gets thrown in prison, then he just goes absolutely, literally ape shit.
That's one of my favorite scenes in the show.
Loses his mind. Yeah. It's such a good scene.
So goofy, yeah.
And it really just like, it just exemplifies his frustration, his irritation. Like this is how much he despises the Powerpuff Girls because they keep thwarting his plans.
This is like, that's the fun like campiness of this series. Cause like, it's like, this also works like filmically, like you understand like the intensity of it and what Mojo's feeling, but like it's also like just really stupid, which I just love that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like also what I like about this is like you kind of see why this is like a board driven show, because like if you wrote like the first half was like pointless in script form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all visual. I mean, like there's barely any dialogue at all. It's literally just here's Mojo doing a bunch of stuff to terrorize the town, and the girls beat him up. I mean, there's no exposition to give. There's no structure or like setup as far as like dialogue that's necessary to basically it's all told through the action and the defeats. That's like, okay, we get the context. The context of this episode is Mojo is fed up with losing.
Yeah. Especially you don't have to watch the show before to get it.
It's told perfectly. Yeah, no, you don't. You can watch this on a first time go around and you immediately can see that and interpret that. And that's like the beauty of it is it's like, you know, most cartoons and shows are going to rely on some form of like talking to like set things up and whatever. But like Powerpuff isn't dialogue driven, as you've said. It's not script driven. It's storyboard driven. And it's like the nice thing about that is, and again, the fantastic thing about animation is it's such a visual medium to begin with that when you structure a show using the board-driven mindset, it really allows you to take advantage of storytelling through the visuals and through the blocking and the motifs and, you know, the stylization and all the various facets of animation that can bring a moving picture together and, you know, really present intent and messaging and motivation from characters, like all these different facets that you can interpret. Especially as an active viewer, it encourages active viewing, which is something I'm always a fan of. Like, because it's like, yeah, I know some people struggle with active viewing and other people struggle with passive viewing. I have a friend who's like, you know, he's like, I wish I could turn my brain off and just enjoy something passively. And I have other people that are like, I never think about this stuff at all. I just turn my brain off. And it's like, cool. I switch between the two modes. So like I can choose to watch something passively or actively as I, you know, basically intend to going into something. And I like having the ability to watch something actively and really take in this sort of thing, because it's like, yes, if I turn my brain off, okay, this is a bunch of explosions and the girls punch Mojo, la-di-da-di-da. But it's like if I switch to an active mindset, it's like, okay, so the intent behind this is to really exemplify Mojo's irritation, his annoyance, and his utter, you know, just he's fed up with losing. And that it just kind of feeds right into his entire motivation for the episode. By the way,
I would,
you know, we can see it visually.
When the girls are like, just like sort of beating him when he's down, like I would cry. Like, like imagine that, like you're getting thwarted all these times, and then these girls are just giggling at you and making fun of you.
Yeah. Oh, especially that last part where Blossom says that little spiel of like, the Powerpuff Girls never lose, and he's like being taken.
Which, you know, she ate with that, but like,
you know, man,
like Buttercup says, "Give up, Mojo."
Mm-hmm.
And I love also, I obviously love the Bubbles blowing a raspberry at him.
Yep.
There is some good Bubble stuff in this episode.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But yeah. So that's a really good setup. And then we kind of shift gears over to Mojo contemplating in prison, and that's where he kind of gets his evil scheme. Love that shot where he's in darkness.
Yes.
And he's like just sitting in his cell, and it's like you just see
that whole scene,
very minimalist, because it's like you see the side of his face, or you just see like an aerial shot of him sitting in the corner or whatever, and most of the room is pitch black, but you can see just moonlight coming through the open window or whatever with the bars. You know, it's really cool. It's like, this is definitely very visually attractive, I would say. It's just really appealing.
It's very cool. And also, like, because the art direction was so cool in that scene, like I always like until I watched it a few times, I kind of just like glossed over the gag where like they're telling him to laugh less loud. And he does a quiet evil laugh, which is silly.
Yeah.
And of course, the show is so totally crazy. It's really like, cool. There's a cinematic thing that the narrator just sings that they're at the girl's house.
The Powerpuff Girls' house.
I love that all.
Professor, there's a stranger on the phone. Yeah, well, hello, Mr. Stranger. What can I do
this action-packed episode, and there's just such a dumb scene in this.
Yeah.
And once again, no other show this could really happen in.
And Mojo's like, he's not even putting on a voice. He's just like, yeah, I'm the student from the community.
Yeah, I'm calling from
and I'm writing a paper on the Powerpuff Girls. What exactly are those three girls made of? Yeah.
The professor just gives it to him. And it's also like that little meta joke. Like, Mojo's just like, that's it? Like this whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so. I just love how like the casuality of it. Like, it's just such a simple thing. It's like, oh yeah, you can just hit up the professor and he'll be like, yeah, this is how I did it. You can do it.
It's such a
simple. It's like, why hasn't anyone else done this? Like, well, that's featured in a later episode, but
that's kind of. I guess it's kind of almost commenting on that. It's like, that's it. That's all I had to do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But yeah, and then he goes and he follows through, and I really
forgot to mention that he hung up on his pound cake recipe.
Oh yes,
and this is Professor getting hung up on again in the season.
Yes, I mean he's used to it at this point,
I guess.
But this episode basically goes fully in, because it's like, obviously the sugar spice and everything nice thing comes from a poem from, I think it's the 1800s, or it might even be older than that. But I think the original author was actually it's not certain. I researched this for my video like a year and a half ago, but I can't remember anymore. But like, people have tied it to one guy, but they don't think that he's like the original author of the poem. They think that he is like, I forget if he was a translator, or if he took the poem and made a song out of it, and he's credited for the song. I don't remember. But basically, sugar spice and everything nice, this is what little girls are made of, it's part of a poem from like 200 plus years ago. Basically what this episode does is, it's like, okay, let's look at the other side of the poem. Snips and snails and puppy dog tails. That's what the original poem was. And so they take that and they're like, okay, this is how the Rowdyruff Boys are going to be created. Go figure. It's the perfect setting for it too. Like, I actually admire the fact that they're like, they came up with a pretty effective way to be like, yeah, we can make this totally happen. Like, it doesn't have to feel out of nowhere. They put Mojo in prison. Okay, Snips, yeah, cut the guy's armpit hair. Snails, oh, he got the escargot from the prison meal. Yeah.
Which he happily gives him, like.
Yeah. Oh, I love how happy that chef is.
He's like, I'm so glad you asked for that. My specialty.
Yep. And then a puppy dog's tail. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of dogs in the police force. Sure, we can have a dog wandering around prison. No big deal. So he pulls off the dog's tail, and yeah, the talking dog's tail, and then he mixes them together in the freaking toilet, because, it had to be something chemical. So, which that seems it's a little gross. The way he inhales the fumes is kind of a little nasty, but whatever.
I guess I didn't ever notice how gross it was, but I guess the show's art style isn't that gross.
Yeah, no, and right. I mean, they don't emphasize it, but it is a little weird to see Mojo just kind of hover over to this like green prison toilet and just inhale the fumes.
Well, he's evil. And
he like wipes his arm across his face, and it's like, what?
He's very happy about
whatever. He is, and then like he makes it happen, and then like the entire prison gets flooded with toilet water, and the boys are born, and it's like,
I admit I did edit that scene like separately and posted it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great.
So it's like, I think they did a good job with basically making a juxtaposition of an origin for what the girls were, for the boys. So that's pretty cool. And then,
the toilet is chemical X.
Yep. Which, like, you know what? A prison toilet, fair. That thing probably wasn't
potent, yeah.
So, you know.
Can we talk about that effect that Mojo's just looks into the toilet?
Oh, like the reflection or whatever? Yeah. I think that's a similar effect to what they did with the heat in Ice Soar.
I think those are both digital, but
yeah,
those look like the stuff that was done in post. But very interesting to see this show this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a funny shot.
Yeah, and then of course the boys are born, so we've got
and the Rowdyruff Boys must smell.
And Butch. They probably reek. But we got Brick, Boomer, and Butch. Fittingly, they also all have B names because that's just the trend. So, that's pretty cool.
Do you ever think about I wonder how easy or hard they were to come up with? We're just like, we got to come up with more B names.
Well, I'm actually curious if the shorter syllable names were intentional or not. I want to say, and maybe I'm giving them credit where it's not really due, but when you consider the fact that it's okay, yeah, Boomer's 2 syllables, but if you've got Brick and Butch, they're both 1-syllable names. They're way less sophisticated, and admittedly, the Rowdyruff Boys, Brick being the exception, they are kind of depicted as less intelligent.
Oh no, they're dumb.
Especially in the later seasons, which we're not there yet.
That's a little different. Okay, well, we'll talk about that.
That is a different interpretation, and we'll get there. But still, they are still depicted as more like meatheads and less intelligent and sophisticated than the girls. They're very much to the point of we want to fight now. They have one-track mind.
I guess they're a little bratty and primitive. I guess.
Yeah, exactly. They're less mature. And, in all fairness, I think it's commonly said that girls tend to mature faster than boys. Granted, these kids are kindergartners, but
these are evil kindergartners, remember?
They are evil.
And they were born out of crap.
I honestly think that whether or not it was intentional, it's actually very fitting that the boys have a shorter syllable names. So I just think that's a cool detail that kind of aligns with them in the way that, the girls having 2 or 3 syllable names has, it kind of emphasizes that a little bit more. The girls are more sophisticated. They are more, mature or whatever. So, because it's you've got an elegant name Blossom and Bubbles, and then you've got Butch,
Butch.
So, or Brick.
Remember, her original name was
rectangle.
Bud.
Yeah.
God, could you imagine a future where her name was Bud?
That. No, I would hate that.
Oh my God.
Buttercup is infinitely better.
Of course.
Infinitely better. Yeah. It just like they say in the documentary, it Blossom, Bubbles, and Bud.
Yeah, I think they said it kind of hangs there. Yeah.
It just hangs there. Buttercup is perfect.
And they got to fix that in the movie. That's why her name is Buttercup.
Yep. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I do think the names are good and fitting, and obviously, the characters, especially in this episode, the personalities aren't nearly as distinct as they're made to be later. So they're still there, but we didn't need it.
We didn't, yeah.
It wasn't necessary to the story. The story was there's evil Powerpuff Girls that the Powerpuff Girls have to fight. They fight.
I mean, that's what happens with one-time villains most of the time.
That's put aside.
They're just sort of interesting conceptually, but...
Yes, but if it's done well, they are given personalities that very highly contrast the hero. And yes, they contrast here, but they aren't distinct, and I think that is admittedly a flaw that could have been better.
I mean...
But again, that is not the focus. The focus is not on the character, it's on the fighting.
Here's also the thing about... the Rowdyruff Boys, that's also different than one-time villains. They're not, I don't know, because Roach Ghost is a one-time villain, but also they're kind of an invention of Mojo's. So, I mean, I think that's something Craig said. He said, I guess somebody asked him why they weren't in Powerpuff Girls rule or something. And he said, I consider the Rowdyruff Boys an extension of Mojo. But,
which, they are.
They are. So,
they are.
So, I mean, I think, if you were to do future episodes, you obviously need more personality, but I wouldn't sacrifice plot points or action to see the boys interact.
I know this is going to be a weird comparison, but I can't think of a better one. They are the Rowdyruff Boys are the equivalent of Metal Sonic from Sonic the Hedgehog. In the same way, well, it is, because in the same way that Dr. Robotnik was I need to make an evil Sonic to live up to beat Sonic. So he made Metal Sonic, and he's supposed to have the same capabilities as Sonic and the two butt heads and whatever. And the Rowdyruff Boys are basically in the same boat of like they are the evil Powerpuff Girls, and they have similar abilities, and they butt heads, and yada yada yada. Yeah, it's actually a very accurate comparison.
Oh my gosh. But, okay, well, I'll give you that.
But yeah, you better give it to me.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
Thank you for the credit. I appreciate it.
I do love. I'm sorry. I just like that silly drawing of Mojo. Like he's so happy that the Rowdyruff Boys are born, and his eyes are joined.
Yeah,
he's happy to have kids. That's something that's kind of like he sort of seems a little happy to have kids in this episode.
Yeah, he's a father. He's a dad.
There's a scene I love later. They dump They actually dump chemicals on him, like, kind of like they do to like Gatorade. Yeah, like just like dumping Gatorade on their coach.
On a coach.
And he's just like, oh, you guys.
Yeah. You guys. Yeah. Yeah, it's really
love
cool.
His children. And also this is the introduction of their theme, obviously, which is awesome.
Dun 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 dun. Which is like an inverse of like the Powerpuff Girls going up, the boys theme goes down. Right.
Yeah, it's literally reverse, which took me too long to realize that, but I love it.
Really?
It took me. I'm telling you, like it took me way too long.
Damn. Yeah, I always love that detail.
And the thing is, like, since they don't come back, and I don't think they were intended to come back, they just use this as sort of like a general action theme for the other episodes. Yeah. Which I'm in support of. It's a good theme. Yeah. And then Mojo.
Well,
what about Mojo? Mojo says butts like 3 times.
Oh yeah, you don't want to kick my butt, the butts that you should be kicking. Yeah, that whole thing. Yeah,
my butt is as rotten as yours.
Yeah, it's like, okay, thanks.
It's such a stupid way to end the act.
It really is. It really is. That's how they end it, and then the boys fly through the ceiling with Mojo. It's like, okay, all right, I guess we're just cutting the commercial now.
Yeah, and there's those boys are bad to the bone, the song reference.
Yep.
Which is, it's okay.
Song references from the narrator.
And, like the second half of the episode starts with the city Townsville's under attack, which is always great and welcome.
Yep. And then there's the giant octopus monster.
There's a funny stat I always think of, like they cut off like the squid's like one of the squid's arms.
Yep.
Or tentacles. You wouldn't say tentacles, right?
No, they're
tentacles. They cut off
octopi.
They cut off one of the squid's tentacles, and he just looks at it and he just looks offended.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the bubbles, wants the ladybugs to fly away.
Yeah. Fly away, bugs, fly away.
You're already getting good action, but the Rowdyruff Boys weren't even born yet. Well, they didn't appear yet. Yeah. The fight didn't start. As a kid, I always loved when they hit something in the eye or came through eyes.
Yep.
So brutal, gross. By the way, this is also one of the reasons I never really took kindly to the Rowdyruff Boys when I was younger, because I was like, they suck. Like they hurt the girls for no reason. Like let me remind you, they're so sexist that they just saw these girls, they heard about these girls and wanted to kill them immediately.
Yeah.
What the heck, guys? Not cool.
We're the Rowdyruff Boys and we want to fight.
That's
bang,
it.
Bang, bang.
Yeah, like they don't waste time,
that's
right?
It. That's
at least they're not wasting time. Yeah. It's kind of interesting because there's 2 red artists in this episode, so this is boarded by Clay Morrow and Paul Rudish. You could kind of like see who does what section, because like Paul's style is very like unique, and it usually that like the episodes usually come out looking like his. And it still looks like he drew it like by the time it comes back. So I just look at this episode and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is a Paul scene. Some of the original storyboards were posted to Cartoon Network's website back in like 2000. All of that is archived. Thankfully, some brave soul archived it, and we get the introduction of sort of I think they're asking for a hiding weapon, which became somewhat of a catchphrase.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Did she say it again?
I don't think so.
Maybe. I think it might have been on the toys. And I think E.G. Daily just likes saying it. So, she might have recorded it for some toys. That might be why she remembers it. That is one of E.G.'s, that's the first thing E.G. says whenever she, mentions Rowdyruff. She talks about whooping Heine. And that's what I think Batman and other superheroes should say that more.
No, I don't.
You don't think Batman is? I think they're asking for a Heine whooping.
No, I don't think Batman would ever say that.
I have to say, I love those torpedo punches. Like she just she kind of just jumps Brick, and then they start jumping her. It happened. It's so fast,
which is cool.
It's very cool. A lot of quick cutting. But very different sensibility from when Gendy did Samurai Jack. This is a lot more quick cutting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of them trying to do anime.
Yep.
And it works here. That's really, again, that's really the only inspiration that they took from anime, the action. That is like, that's a minor pet peeve. Like, it's not a big deal, but like, I don't, this show really isn't like, I wouldn't say it's not a huge, homage to anime.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was somebody who even just like said, like, with confidence that they're just like, oh, like, the show was created because Cartoon Network had so many Sailor Moon reruns at a time that Craig McCracken got pissed off that there were so many reruns and he created the parody of it, which is just like, I don't understand where that came from, but I like that person just said it in a forum with jurisdiction. And then, yeah, like the Rowdyruff Boys are shocked that the girls aren't crying when they hit them. Which that is a little bit of cartoon license because, of course, they were just born, but
yeah, it takes a lot more than cheap shots to make us cry.
Which is, kind of new for the time. This is also Lauren Faust's favorite episode. That's the one she always states.
Mm-hmm.
That really hooked her on the show.
I mean, it's cool. I mean, I love basically all the action that takes place from that point forward until the end of the fighting. Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
There's so many moments that are just so cool. I mean, I can sit here and just list them all, but like there's my absolute favorite action shot of like the whole episode. The one. It's the panning shot where you see all 6 of the characters like flying around.
It's so much action in one.
Left to right. And you see like, Butch and Bubbles are in the background for 1 second and then Brick like hits Buttercup over here or whatever. And then like Blossom's flying over here and punches Boomer or whatever. Like it's such a cool thing. And you can see the octopus in the background of the alleyway, which is really cool.
He's still just sitting
there's
there
just so much detail in that panning shot that I absolutely love. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't think you ever get that much action again.
Yeah, and then like there's a bunch of shots from there.
I mean, really, what do you think is the most action-packed episode?
This is debatably this one or the next one are debatably
Bubble
the
Vicious
best
would win if it wasn't 11 minutes.
Dynamo.
Yeah,
it's debatably this one and the next one.
Crisscross Crash is actually that's a silly one, but that does have a lot of action.
I wouldn't say it's as much though.
I wouldn't. Yeah, probably not as much, right? Yeah. I don't even think there's a season 4.
I don't think so. I think I would pretty much be confident in saying that it's this one and the next one. Which one has more between the two? Hard to say. They both feel about. I think this episode's technically longer. I mean, we could literally.
Well, they're different types of action,
but we could literally maybe sit down and be like, okay, we're gonna go from this timestamp.
You know what? Actually, it might be this one.
I would say this one's probably just a bit longer than Dynamo.
Because remember, most of the action doesn't happen until the second half, really.
Correct.
There's like one fight scene, and then
correct.
Then they get in the robot.
But this one does have the intro to support it, so that probably would give this one the edge.
Yeah, action all the way through.
So yeah, no, I mean, there's so many iconic moments. I mean, I love the scene where who is it? I think it's Buttercup gets thrown into the apartment or whatever, and then she kind of looks up and you just see this car flying towards the window, which is super cool.
Right,
and then
that's what
I love the part where
this is a really good sense.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that like this is it's like it's really specific sensibilities. Like how do we make this cartoony but like also action packed at the same time?
Yeah, well, they did.
It's like it's kind of like making Popeye into like a serious action movie in some ways. It's like a mixture of those sensibilities. Mm-hmm. There's also the Sesame Street reference in this, right?
It's Koopa.
Cooper.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would get that nowadays. I think I probably had to be told by the internet about that.
I definitely had to be.
Because Mr. Hooper died in the maybe in the 70s or 80s?
I don't remember. It was before my time.
I would say the 80s.
It was before my time.
Well, yeah. Well, Sesame Street had a big episode, where he passed away. And they actually, rare for a kid show at the time, they actually, and even now, they acknowledged his passing in the show and did an episode about it. But yeah, Bubbles is so childish that, she calls him Mr. Hooper. So I love that.
I've always found super satisfying is the one where I believe it's Boomer's like tackling Bubbles and then Bubbles lands on the ground and kicks him back into the building. Oh, that's always so satisfying to see.
Yes, yeah. All the attacks are very good too.
Yeah, and they're very well thought out.
The ballistic barrage.
Very well thought out.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a Street Fighter reference, ballistic barrage, but
it could be. I don't really play Street Fighter to know.
I love the music that they use for the what is that called? It's did he say absorb attack or something?
Are you talking about when the girls do their cartwheels?
Yeah, the cartwheel attack.
Acrobatic, because it's like acrobatic.
Acrobatic. Acrobatics, yes, okay. Okay, I forgot. Yes, Acrobat Attack. I love the music during that. That whole sequence is very nice.
Yeah.
I think it's well boarded.
Yep. And then we get the moment where we kind of shift over to like
they charge at each other.
Oh yeah, where they charge at each other. Yeah. I was gonna say there's the moment where they pick up the various vehicles, the boat and the plane and the bus, and they chuck them all at the girls all at once. And have to save all the people.
Yes, like they suck.
Yeah,
gosh,
I mean they fight dirty. That's what their whole thing is like
they fight dirty. Exactly.
The girls are like trying to sit over here. Not only are they trying to fight villains, crazy. But they're also trying to keep the people safe.
Yeah, well, I mean, it also if anybody had the same powers as they did, like the world would not be safe.
No, not at all.
It's barely safe with them in it. That is so crazy to like take the wings off an airplane and just like throw it at somebody. That sucks. Yeah.
But
and of course we didn't mention the Hello Blossom, Goodbye Blossom, that whole sequence.
Hi Bubbles, goodbye Bubbles.
Buttercup is my favorite.
And then the mayor turns to Bellum and he's like,
of course it's very appropriate that he's thinking about Pretzel Day when like the city is under attack. And it kind of foreshadows Miss Bellum's role in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. So she gets to do something in this.
Bellum's definitely very aware of what's going on. Meanwhile, the mayor's like, do you think the girls would like this?
I mean, she is technically the smartest person in Townsville.
She's the brains behind the man.
Yeah. Sorry to Professor, but he's kind of an idiot, too.
He is...
Well, actually, he's an idiot because of the scene earlier in this.
What's the word I'm looking for? Not contingent. I can't think of the word. There's a word that's on the tip of my tongue that I can't think of at the moment, but he's like contextually an idiot. There's a different word than contextually I'm looking for, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I can't remember.
I can't help you there.
No, there's You'll a word. Find it. I'm gonna keep thinking about it, but
yeah, and I think that's a new Q too when they have to stop all the things from hitting the ground, which they reuse a lot, and I love that. Yeah. It's very funny. I just love that they put the talking dog in that shot of the boys punching them away, and the talking dog is just like just finds it rude. That face is always so funny to me. And there's just so much new score that they're doing in this episode that I love so much. I think that's one of the when the girls want the Rowdyruff Boys to chase them to take the flight out of Townsville. I think that's also, I believe that score is on the DVD menus. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The 10th anniversary set, which by the way, great set. We didn't even talk about the voice performances really.
No, I mean they're good.
Aside from the Multiversus thing.
I mean Rob Paulson and Roger L. Jackson do the voices for the boys.
Yeah, I think this might be Rob Paulson's first time. Rob Paulson is a big extra on Dexter. He's like he's on most episodes of that show actually.
His big Dexter role.
Yeah, he's Major Glory. And I think this is his first Powerpuff.
I believe it is.
So I don't know. I guess he just had to come in and there's like, this is what Bubbles sounds like. So see Blossom and Bubbles, and he does pretty distinct voices actually. I don't see these voices in any other show.
Yeah.
I don't believe they pitched him up at all. I'm sure he could hit that. He could get his voice really high.
I believe it.
Yeah, they're fun performances. They're kind of, they're bratty sounding, but like
that's the point.
That's kind of partially why I think like, they were intended to be one-time characters. Because I don't know. I feel like just looking from this episode, it's just like, they have funny voices, but like, would I want to hear them in more episodes? I mean, maybe, but they're very intentionally bratty sounding. They're not like cute and likable like the girls are.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, overall, I mean, at this point, like we've talked about most of the episode. I mean, basically at this point, the girls end up losing after they, fly out of Townsville.
They kind of kill them.
The boys kick in the afterburners.
By farting, I guess.
But like the thing I've always appreciated is like this is like the most subtle version of that I think I've seen in a kid's cartoon.
They didn't play like a sound effect.
They didn't play a sound effect. They didn't make it really all that gross at all. I mean, they literally is just like kicking the afterburners. They fly past them. The girls choke and fall to the ground. And then they just make a comment about having eaten burritos. And it's like, that's it. I mean, but it's like,
yeah, dude.
Yeah. And then they go back to Mojo's pad.
To celebrate.
And then so they fly back and then the girls are like, we lost, we failed. Big sad. The citizens all gather around.
They can kind of, I don't know,
corpses and cry.
They do that like tear thing where like they revive them with their sadness.
Yeah. And then they're like, we lost.
I'm sorry, so like it's sort of a funny scene where like They're just like, it's a death ray. It's like, it's the girls. And the mayor's like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's nice because it humbles the girls as characters. Because it's like, it really does show, especially even to the audience, it's like, no, the girls are not invincible and they can lose. They are capable of it.
That's kind of that's the fun. I mean, we haven't really seen them lose that much till this point in the show.
No, we haven't at all.
Which is why it's surprising.
Yeah.
And also their attitude is always sort of like, we can handle this. Mm-hmm. Like,
and it's like,
sort of like they were in the beginning.
And it's like, granted, I mean, given all of their abilities and the way that it's kind of written, that they can have any superpower they really need at any time. It's like, it shows that there is an awareness that it's like, yeah, these characters are not these perfect Superman beings that are just invincible. I mean, even Superman has a weakness, so it's like, it's cool that there's just that acknowledgement of like, yeah, the girls at the end of the day, they're not perfect and they can lose just like anyone else can. And that's just an important part of,
right.
The story.
And they have to use their brains this time, or their femininity.
Yep. And that's how they win.
Yeah. And I get to be really like childish at this moment because Bubbles says that boys are afraid of bugs.
Yeah. No, Bubbles, that's what you're afraid of. Oh yeah.
It's just a great piece of acting. It's like one line, but like, Tara gets to that really like childish, that really childish side of her voice.
Yep. And then Miss Bellum gives her whole like, try being nice.
Yeah, nice, which I don't know how they got away with that. I don't know
how they got away with it either. It's honestly, it's still baffling that they did, but they did.
And yeah, I think even Paul Reuter said like they drew her. I think this like the model sheet isn't that intense with the cleavage, but I think they kind of pushed it.
They pushed it.
They definitely pushed it in that scene. There's also something else I would like to talk about, like how this episode was sort of seen by the public.
Sure.
But I guess we'll wait till we finish talking about the actual episode.
Okay. I don't have much else to say. I mean, basically what happens is the girls kiss the boys blow up at the end. I mean,
yeah, that's also a score that I like a lot. There's a lot of score.
Yeah.
All this episode score is perfect.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, the score, it's like, it's like a lighter, softer version of the main theme or whatever. And then, yeah, the boys blow up, they lose, Mojo goes back to jail. Most of the rest of the conversation at this point just kind of stems into the other stuff. So I'm more than ready to kind of talk about that overall.
Well, no, because I also have to say I like oh Mojo shut up.
Yeah.
It just keeps talking. He's like, oh Mojo shut up.
Yeah. So I mean, overall for the episode itself, I think it's a good episode. The action's phenomenal. We've kind of said that a million times already, so I'm not going to just reiterate everything that was said, but again, overall, this episode does hold a special place for me because it is my first episode. I really enjoy it. I think it still holds up today for the most part. Some people could argue that the ending is questionable, and I would totally understand that. So,
I mean, well, here's the thing, right? So, like, this episode has inspired. I guess we'll talk about the Rowdyruff Boys after this. I'll just like say I'm not like this episode has sort of been the focus of a lot of case studies, I would say, or about like how the show's like feminist perspective on things, which in context, right? And Lauren Foss isn't even on the show at this point. I think really the only girls I could think of on the writing staff are Cindy Morrow and Amy Keating Rogers. Yep. And I don't even think this was her outline. I think this was Michael Ryan wrote this outline. So this is kind of, unless Cindy Morrow was in a story room, this is sort of like a product all written by males. Like this show sort of, like I would say the show's feminist, but like accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
So they just sort of landed on something good. But I think this one is a little complicated because I think some people love it and that lens, and some people, I know there were some criticisms like is that really a good message that they just couldn't stop them on their own?
Yeah. No,
and you had to get into like sexualization.
It is definitely. There's definitely a question to be made, and I think it's a very nuanced conversation. One way more nuanced than something we can really go in depth on the podcast. Because
of course. And I just think like my thing is like I don't think this like holds up as a like I'm not sure if this holds up like morally in like 2025. But I think in 1998 it was a funny ending for a cartoon.
I think the difficulty in it ultimately stems from the fact that times have changed since the episode came out, and obviously there's been. Yeah. Not that progressivism wasn't a thing back then. It most certainly was. I mean, women had already been protesting decades prior to that, and women's rights were definitely something that were in the awareness, although they are much more aware nowadays, and things have definitely improved in that regard. Still a ways to go, of course. But I think a lot of the difficulty just comes in the fact that it was viewed differently at the time. And I'm not necessarily saying that it's like that just makes it okay and there's no reason to criticize, because if you absolutely feel like this is something worth analyzing and potentially criticizing, absolutely go for it. I think there's a valid argument to be made. But also, you know, there's also this argument to be made, and I see this all the time, and I really can't formulate my own opinion on it, because it's like, on one hand, you have this group of people that say the sexualization of women is wrong, but then you also have this other group of people saying women are allowed to sexualize themselves if they want, because it's their choice to do with themselves as they please. And it's like, I see that. I see both sides of the argument, and I feel like it's too nuanced for me to have a black and white stance on this or that. I think there's way too much gray area
that's partially
here.
just an issue that I think nobody could really have a definite opinion.
Exactly. I think there's too much gray area that you'll never be able to land on a conclusion at all.
Yeah. But I think, like, as far as this episode, I think it's not an offensive ending.
It's not offensive by any means.
Because, like, obviously the gag is that, message. Like, boys are afraid of cuties, and, are reacting, so that makes them explode, which is funny, especially in 1999. It's funny, and it's a new thing to see. But I just think, like, I think most of the show probably just doesn't hold up in, like, if you're doing it in a serious lens about feminism, or, like, like, I don't think this is the episode to base your college essay on. That's basically what I'm saying. And Equal Fights is I would say that's more than thinking hard about feminism, but that one's not perfect either. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
I think it's valid criticism, though, on a moral standpoint. And the other half is, the Rowdyruff Boys.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know I'm in the minority on this one.
Yeah, I could first, before we get into, like, the shipping stuff, they did come back a few years later.
Yeah, but that's not really relevant.
Which I think we could touch on. We could touch on that a little bit, because, like, we have quite a while until we get to that stuff. But I would say, and we're gonna have more stuff to say about it anyway when that comes up, because it's gonna be in so long. But they bring them back. I'm not sure if that should have happened or not, and I don't know. I mean, I think they got some entertainment out of their second appearance. Like, they were like, there was custody battle. Bubble Boy is okay. I still don't know if it kind of is a jump the shark move in some ways, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know if Craig would want that, or, maybe he approved it. So I really don't know. There definitely was demand for the Rowdyruff Boys.
There was demand 100%.
Which is, like, undeniable, but I don't know. And they expanded their personalities. They kind of made them meatheads, which I think is funny, but at the same time, the other side of that is, like, the Gangrene Gang already kind of does that, and they're funnier characters. So, that's my opinion. They're okay characters. I think they're great for a one-time appearance, but I have mixed. I guess when we get to those episodes, I guess I'll decide what I think about that, really. But I'm sort of mixed as, like, if they just should have done it or not, because they really didn't have any other ideas, I guess, at that point. And then, the other half is at the end of the episode, the girls, at least Blossom and Bubbles, kind of admit to liking the kissing, and the girls are growing up. Basically, that's what that's about.
And it spawned endless shipping that has lasted for almost 30 years.
Yeah, God.
I'm not a fan of it. I made that abundantly clear in my video. I gave my main 4 reasons. I have nothing against people who ship. That's totally their prerogative. I've never really found it enjoyable. I just, I never really found fan-in or fan fiction or any of that really that interesting for myself to begin with, because I choose to only go off of what is officially released by either, like, the original creator or the artist or the owner or whatever. I don't really like to delve into other, fantasy alternative stuff. That's just not my thing. I don't really enjoy it. That being said, I don't even enjoy the idea of shipping the boys and the girls in general either. Just because they're literal children, and I think that's weird. Again, to each their own, but I just don't think that's really right. There's also the fact that there are allusions to the fact that the girls and the boys both share a father, which would make them at the very least step siblings, if not actual siblings. Again, kind of weird. The implications are absolutely there. They both share Mojo as a dad, and it's super weird. So, like, I'm just not about that at all. So, yeah. And then overall, the entire point of the show isn't about that. It's like, it's completely unrelated to kind of like the messages or the intent behind the show. And I just don't think it fits this sort of medium. I mean, there's other contexts for that sort of thing that it just isn't really the vibe about these characters. Like, the point of the Powerpuff Girls isn't to be in a relationship. And I don't see how that enhances anything about those characters, especially given their age. Like, there's other purposes for the girls being who they are. They don't need to be matured into these relationship stuff like that. I think that completely misses the point. Again, a lot of people like to age them up. Totally fine if you like that. I personally don't. I think it doesn't make any sense, and I think the girls shouldn't be aged up at all, because then they're not the same characters, and it goes against the entire point of why they are who they are. That's my take. That's my spiel. Maybe I'm a purist. Shoot me or whatever. I don't know. But that's my take.
Yeah, you're not open to new ideas. That's your problem.
I'm open to new ideas if they don't go against the original premise of the show. Like a certain CW, you mean like the entire concept that completely shat all over the original concept and had no regard to that. You know, it felt so disrespectful. And it's just like, you completely missed the point. If you change the girls, you completely miss the point. And it becomes something else. And I'm just not about that. And then it's Powerpuff in name only, and I'm not about that. So, yeah. Again, hate me. Maybe I'm a purist. I don't care. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. I agree to disagree. End of discussion. I'm never really going to contemplate any other sort of alternative interpretation other than the girls are the kindergartners that they are, fighting giant evil monsters. That's the entire appeal and concept of the show. You take that away, it loses all meaning. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah, I think so. And also that's part of it is, I mean, we've admitted before, we're not really like fandom people, which you were kind of saying, like,
not at all.
I think we're both sort of fans in the boring way. So like we you know, I'm not really into like making headcanons about stuff. Just personally, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think we just don't happen to be those types of people. So I think we mostly just like, we like the silly action show about, you know, kids fighting crime. That's mostly what we like.
Yeah, you know.
And if it's not funny, silly, and it's not the girls being kids and fighting, like I don't usually want anything to do with it. And I feel the same way about aging it up. It's just like, it's just not for me. It's not that fun to me.
No,
it's not what the show is. It's not what I get from the show.
No, it's the original media that
it's not like about. It's not evil to do. It's not like, you know, I'm not saying like you're a cringy loser if you do that. Like it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
I personally don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, what is funny is I think there was some like 2000. I mean, he's not like I just like, I don't want to crush anybody's like anybody who's like shipping. Like, I think he said this very casually. I don't think he was totally serious about it anyway. But there was like this interview from 2000 where he was just like, yeah, some fans want the Rowdyruff Boys to come back and like, you know, date the Powerpuff Girls, which is pretty creepy considering they're in kindergarten. Which I think, that's insane. But like the funny thing is, like, imagine if somebody like, if like a creator said that about a modern show on Twitter, they just like totally said like a ship was creepy. Like, that's crazy. Like, you can never get away with saying that now.
Mm-hmm.
Just totally condemning a ship.
Yeah.
So I thought that was hilarious whenever I saw that. But yeah, but I don't think it works. And also, you know, I don't like the Rowdyruff Boys.
I don't either.
Because they're mean to the girls. I like the girls.
They serve their purpose here. That's all they needed to ever be. I mean, you know, we'll talk about all. And they're not.
They'll never be on my favorite villains list.
No, they're never gonna crack my top 10. Like.
Because I mean, like they're just like, they're in any context, they're not that interesting. Like they're fun, but like I don't like them more than Mojo. Like they're kind of funny. I mean, you know,
not really.
They're sort of cool, but not you know, not cooler or funnier than like the Gang or Mojo, like,
or him or Fuzzy or Princess or Sedusa
or Fuzzy.
or
even I think Fuzzy's better too.
Yeah.
some of the monsters are more interesting. Yeah. Like in any context, I don't think like this version of them is
Dude,
like
they're not on
my top 10.
Like the Boogeyman has way more personality. I love the Boogeyman. I'm gonna continue to reference this guy because I love him. I wish he was in more episodes. But it's true. It's like there are one-off villains that I find more interesting. Other one-off villains that I find more interesting than the Rowdyruff Boys. So it's like
I'll even say Lenny.
Yeah, Lenny Baxter is more interesting. Has more of a personality. I like the Amoeba Boys. They're only in like 4 episodes as the main villains, and they have less main villain appearances than the Rowdyruff Boys, as does Sedusa, and I think both of those villains are more interesting. So
like I just think just in all contexts, like, even this appearance, like the versions of them that are in the later seasons, they're not in my top 5, even though I like them fine.
They're not in my top 10. I can guarantee.
I don't think there's anything that you could really change about them to like make them better. I just think like these are just what the characters are, and like they're intended to be used in small doses, or really just one dose.
Yeah,
because I don't think like I understand. I'm sure there's some fan people who want them to come back as like be redeemed as like good kids who are friends with the girls, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the show. Nope. Like I don't know.
It serves no purpose in my opinion. But
I don't think like I don't think that would make anything better. Why would you want? So like there's 6 main characters now that save the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about that, but
okay. Well, do you have anything else to add, or are we good to?
I think we pretty much hit it.
I think we've said everything we need to say. So, all right, cool. Well, we're gonna wrap this up by answering a question that we received from JP Toaster. Shout outs to our boy JP Toaster. JP Toaster left us a comment on Spotify, or a question on Spotify. As a reminder, go ahead and hit us up on Spotify or in the YouTube comments on our YouTube channel, where we post these episodes. Ask us some questions. I am clapping actually. Ask us some questions. We love to answer more than the couple that we've gotten. So by all means. By the way, for the other guy that hated Doug, was questioning why we hated Doug last episode. I still hate Doug. Doug is garbage. It's miserable. I'm fulfilling my quota there. That being said, JP Toaster.
I changed my mind. I love Doug.
You shut your mouth right now. Doug is trash. Anyway, our question this week comes from JP Toaster, who says, what are your favorite cartoons, not including PPG? Do you want to go first, or should I?
Well, you already started in the beginning of the episode.
Yes, so Arcane. I love Arcane. Arcane is, at this point, Arcane, even if Powerpuff Girls is like my favorite, Arcane is like the definitive best cartoon, and there is a difference between best and favorite. But I would call Arcane the best animated series ever created, flat out. It's amazing. I love Arcane. I love Samurai Jack. I love Chowder. I love classic SpongeBob. I love classic Fairly Odd Parents. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. I definitely like some anime. I'm big on Yu-Gi-Oh! I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Likes to get shat on because the 4Kids dub sucks, but I love the original Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially the manga run, which I get isn't like animation, it's manga, but still. I gotta get caught up on My Hero Academia, because I'm still not caught up. I keep falling behind on that show. I like Cowboy Bebop. I like a lot of shows. Invader Zim's cool. So I don't watch like a ton of animation anymore as far as like animated series go, but like I do watch some. So like, I really want to check out Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I still haven't seen Sonic Prime, which I hear is pretty decent. I want to see, what's it called? I can't remember. I liked Infinity Train when that was a thing. So yeah, I like a lot of stuff. I like Star Wars: The Clone Wars, both animated series. What about you, RJ? What do you like? What are your tastes? I like Dexter's Lab. I like Ed, Ed and Eddie.
Yeah, that's what I was going to start with. Yeah, Dexter's Lab is great.
Yeah,
it's another high quality cartoon.
Yep.
Like almost about similar in quality. Like I would say about the same. I guess something about Powerpuff Girls is slightly more gettable, but
is that it?
Dexter was great. Oh, hold on, easy.
No, that was the incorrect response. You're supposed to go, no, that is not it.
Oh, that's right, the the CCF thing. Yeah. I like that. I guess I do like Doraemon. I like Crayon Shin-chan, if he knows what those shows are. Simpsons might be somewhere on that list, I suppose. Early SpongeBob is good, obviously.
Of course.
I used to really like Bob's Burgers.
I hate that show.
I don't really. I know. Yeah. I don't. I think you guys are anti Bob's Burgers, right?
Yes, I am very.
You and some of your friends, right?
It's so bland. So
I really liked some of those looser first seasons, but now I'm not sure. But
it's such a boring show.
What else? Yeah, that's all I could really think of right now.
You know what show I don't like? Doug.
Yeah, that's not my favorite.
I hate that show. It's so boring.
Really? I thought you liked it.
No.
No? Oh,
no.
Okay.
But that being said, okay, so that was our question. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Asking.
Thank you so much. Again, feel free to ask in the comment section of Spotify or YouTube on past episodes and current. I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where there's too many questions. So feel free to ask on any episode and we'll try to answer them in future ones. Usually the questions lag anywhere from 2 to 4 episodes behind. So a question that we get asked on episode 12 might not get answered until episode 15, 16, maybe even 17. Probably not that long, but
wow,
yeah,
crappy service.
So yeah, well, we record. I like to record so that there's enough of a buffer so that we aren't missing release dates or anything. So, but yeah. So with that said, I think we're good to wrap things up here. So I hope you guys are looking forward to next podcast episode in which we talk about the final episode of season 1, Uh-Oh Dynamo, episode 13.
It only took 2 years.
It only took, it's only been 1 year, RJ. It's only been
1 year, 2 years. Red, blue year.
Sure. Dr. Juice.
Dr. Juice.
Dr. Juice, yeah.
That's the example of all the witty humor on the show, Dr. Juice.
Yes, Dr. Juice. I don't know. I was like, well, it was either Dr. Roos or Dr. Juice. I had to pick one of the letters in your name. So
and you went for Juice.
I sure did. So yeah, tune in for Oh Dynamo next episode, and we will see you guys then. Hope you enjoy.
So once again, the day is saved thanks to the Powerpuff Girls.